one of the most famous fighters of his generation, fighting in one of the famous stadiums in the world. Can you imagine being AJ right now? A lot of pressure too, though. Don't get it twisted. You've got to perform in front of 96,000 of your closest friends.
But mamma mia, Rosie, a social media sensation turned boxer, has turned the sport on its ear. This is incredible. And what must be going through this 27-year-old's mind, like so many members of his generation, dealing with mental health issues. Here we go!
Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua has created a big argument among boxing experts. Most believe Joshua would easily control the fight because of his size, power, and top-level heavyweight experience. His Olympic background and knockout record give him a huge edge. Jake Paul has gotten better, beating MMA fighters and lower-level boxers. But he has never faced a real elite heavyweight. Analysts think Paul's only hope would be landing an early surprise punch. But they say Joshua's jab and discipline would keep him safe. Many expect Joshua to win by an easy stoppage in just a few rounds, even though the matchup is entertaining.
Kisa, a few times on it. I mean, there's nothing to report to you that it's close or, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. Of course, AJ is exclusive to DAZN. We also work very closely with His Excellency, and although we have no contract with him, we're in talks for big fights next year. Of course, Tyson Fury being one of them. So we'd definitely give him the respect of making sure that he was aware of the plan and, part of that plan as well. But at the moment, there's nothing major to report on that. Would we take the fight? Absolutely. I think Jake would be... I mean, my estimations of Jake Paul would go through the roof if he signed to fight Anthony Joshua, because I just can't believe in my mind that he would do something like that. I mean, Gervonta was a smart one because of his size. I think actually he would have had a lot of success against Jake Paul, but the size is a problem. But this would just be, like if Jake Paul was to take the fight with AJ, you'd really have to maybe carry his balls in a wheelbarrow on the ring walk, because AJ wouldn't mess around in there, so it would be huge, but nothing to tell you it's close.
Jake Paul versus Anthony Joshua is confirmed for December 19, 2025, at the Casa Center in Miami, and it will stream worldwide on Netflix. This isn't a friendly exhibition. It is a full professional heavyweight fight under Queensberry rules, 8 rounds, 3 minutes each, with 10 Oz gloves. To make things more even, Joshua agreed to a 245 lb weight limit, which is lighter than usual for him, because both fighters' official records are on the line. This is a high-pressure matchup with real consequences.
Jake Paul will face the 2-time unified heavyweight world champion Anthony Joshua on Friday, December the 19th in Miami, Florida. It's going to be an 8-round fight with 3-minute rounds and 10-ounce gloves. It's Joshua's first fight since being knocked out by Daniel Dubois in September last year. Jake Paul won a unanimous decision against veteran Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. earlier this year. Well, Jake Paul said this: a professional heavyweight fight against an elite world champion in his prime. When I beat Anthony Joshua, every doubt disappears and no one can deny me the opportunity to fight for a world title. To all my haters, this is what you wanted. To the people of the...
Many people in boxing and fans online have given strong opinions about Jake Paul, calling out Anthony Joshua. A lot of them feel that Paul's goal of fighting
the real deal respond to me as I tweeted my thoughts about delusion, which again I think is more about what Jake said about Anthony Joshua and what he'll do to him. That was the more delusional aspect of this. Amanda Serrano said, at Jake Paul is the truth. Funny, they say he's a fraud for wanting easy fights, then he asked for the toughest fights ever and they say he's nuts. Listen, he was scheduled to fight Canelo, Gervonta, and now he's calling out Joshua. Come on, who else is doing this? Oh, crap, on second thought, he is out of his freaking mind. You're right. That was more of just Amanda backing her guy, you know what I'm saying, the co-founder of MVP.
Dave Allen strongly warns that Anthony Joshua could hurt his reputation by agreeing to fight Jake Paul. He says that even if Paul lands one clean punch, it could damage everything Joshua has built in his career. Allen believes this matchup is more entertainment than real sport, and doubts Joshua would want that risk. He thinks many serious fans would see the fight as a step backward, and that
lost to Tommy Fury. You can't. Anthony Joshua cannot box Jake Paul. Horrific. He's dangerous for one, and two, if Jake Paul even lands a glove on him, it just diminishes everything that he's achieved. Jake Paul won't last 2 minutes for me. Never mind Anthony Joshua. It's ridiculous. It's a joke.
If AJ does say yes to going in against Jake Paul, does he harm his legacy?
I would lose a bit of respect for him. I think a lot of boxing people would as well, to be honest. Why would he box him? 2-time heavyweight champion of the world, one of the best heavyweights the last 20 years, held British boxing on his back. People might say he deserves to box Jake Paul. But why though? Why would he do it?
Did you lose respect for him when he fought in Ngannou? Did you lose respect for Fury when he fought in Ngannou?
Ngannou's a serious fighting man. World champion in the mixed martial arts.
It's a worrying thing, potentially, the damage that AJ could do to Jake Paul.
He'll hurt him. Yeah, Jake Paul is a cruiserweight. You wouldn't put the Midlands area cruiserweight champion in with Anthony Joshua. So why would you put Jake Paul in there? Just because he's a superstar, whatever. I don't know what he does. What does he do? What is he?
A YouTuber.
It's just not worth it. He's got enough money as it is. Why risk all that for a few more quid? I don't like it.
Since the fight is expected to be a real, sanctioned match and not an exhibition, Roy Jones Jr. has dismissed the idea that Jake Paul could become a real world champion. He doubts Paul can win a meaningful title. Jones says Paul has avoided truly proven opponents, and if he fights highly experienced boxers, those fighters will beat him. He admits Paul might get a title shot someday, but only under easy conditions. Jones remains doubtful that Paul can ever win a real championship.
I'm a world champion.
No.
Why?
I think if they make him fight tough opponents, guys with experience, those guys will beat him. Now, if you catch somebody like myself at the end of their career, or somebody like Tyson, he caught at the end of their career, the chances are much higher. Because now it becomes more of a 50-50. You got a guy who's better than him, but the age factor. You understand me? And that's the only way to balance it for him to make it a 50-50 fight. Somebody who's on his level at the same age, those guys have too much experience. You understand me? So he's not going to beat those guys. But you find a guy who is past his prime, who has a mentality further than his, but...
Anthony Joshua's promoter Eddie Hearn has criticized Jake Paul's boxing level, calling him an average fighter. Hearn keeps questioning whether Paul has the skill needed to compete against top fighters, especially someone like Joshua. He says that although Paul has improved, he is nowhere near the level required to face elite heavyweights.
Yes, I know these guys. They're unbelievably bright. I mean, Logan, much brighter than Jake, in my opinion. But Jake's smart. Okay. You know, content creator. You know, I mean, we have our ups and downs.
Yeah.
Like, I respect Jake. I actually respect him in a boxing sense as well. But we fell out because I told him he was average. That's actually a compliment. Like, to be an average fighter, coming to this kid who's 26, 27, decides to go into boxing. We had a conversation where he's actually telling me he's going to beat Canelo Alvarez. And I'm looking around for cameras. I'm thinking, am I right?
Eddie Hearn also highlighted Jake Paul's wild statements, such as claiming he could beat Canelo Alvarez. Hearn says this idea is ridiculous and believes Paul is greatly overestimating his abilities. Even though Paul has beaten former MMA fighters and less experienced boxers, most experts...
Then it looks like Anthony Joshua and Jake Paul might be in discussions to fight. They were both on a call to each other earlier, and the viral video went round of Jake Paul saying he would knock out Anthony Joshua. If I'm being completely honest, I think Jake Paul would actually be lucky to make it out alive, and I'm actually being dead serious. I think Jake Paul would be lucky to make it out of the ring with Anthony Joshua alive. Tyron Woodley literally had Jake Paul on skates and had Jake Paul panicking for his life. Imagine what Anthony Joshua would do. Look at what Joshua did to the last non-boxer he fought in, Francis Ngannou. That is not going to end well for Jake Paul. But look, let's be real here. This fight should never happen. It's an absolute disgrace to the sport if it does. And yeah, there's got to be a lot of backlash if this actually happens, because it's actually probably worse to the sport of boxing than what Fury in Ngannou was when it came around, or or Mayweather McGregor.
Simon Jordan, a former Crystal Palace owner and outspoken boxing commentator, has given a harsh warning to Jake Paul about fighting Anthony Joshua. Jordan says the matchup is an insult to boxing, claiming Paul lacks the skill and legitimacy to face a heavyweight star like Joshua. He believes the fight hurts the sport's reputation and represents everything wrong with modern boxing. Jordan thinks Joshua would destroy Paul easily. He also says the fight is dangerous for Paul and harms Joshua's legacy. by turning a real sport into a show.
Player welfare. Here's a situation where someone's welfare should be considered in the equation, not his financial welfare, but Jake Paul going into a fight with Anthony Joshua, to me, is absurd. I mean, Anthony Joshua is a legitimate two-time heavyweight champion of the world. He may have got destroyed by Daniel Dubois, but notwithstanding, there's nothing physically wrong with Anthony Joshua that he can't execute. Mentally, he might be in a little bit of a difficult position after the loss to Daniel Dubois. Jake Paul, if this is not going to be, curated into a little dance around exhibition, could find himself in a way of getting seriously hurt here, like Francis Ngannou did. Francis Ngannou was an MMA fighter that got blasted out by Anthony Joshua. A fitter, more focused Anthony Joshua than the version that we've got now, possibly. But this, to me, is everything that's wrong with boxing. It's a money play, nothing wrong. I don't begrudge Anthony Joshua getting 50 million quid for an easy night's work. That's fantastic returns. Most people would take it. But from the boxing world, Jake Paul is now a professional fighter. Whether we categorise him as a YouTuber or not, he's licensed to fight, which means that the governing body should be suggesting that this is not a fight that possibly they should be looking to sanction.
Yeah.
But they will, because the sanctioning fees will be enormous. Anthony Joshua will not lose his legacy like some people are suggesting, because no one will remember it in 2 or 3 years' time. If he embarrasses himself in there, they'll remember it. If he goes in and knocks him out in 30 seconds flat, or turns it into a little bit more of a sort of Jake LaMotta raging bull, holding him up for a few rounds and then knocking him out, then people will forgive it. He'll get a big bag of money, which most people in the world would take, and move on. And then we'll see if he fights anybody meaningful in the year. I mean, it is like sport has become. And what I got my head around on Saturday night was the entertainment value of Conor Benn and Chris Eubank. The fighting of itself, I could be all pious about it, but the entertainment industry is so prevalent in sport now. This is entertainment. This is going to have hundreds of millions of people watching it. Of course. And Anthony Joshua gets paid, and Jake Paul hopefully gets flattened.
Simon, I know the money's there, but does ultimately boxing get damaged?
Well, I think so. But I think boxing damages itself left, right, and centre. But I think the reputability and the credibility of some of these boxing sanctioning bodies is poor anyway. But I think it does get damaged.
Even if it's an exhibition fight, which it might well be.
Well, then what's the jeopardy in that? If it's an exhibition fight, which it shouldn't be, if it's a proper fight, then Jake Paul is going to get...
He's going to get destroyed. David Benavidez says. Jake Paul is one of the biggest names in the sport for selling fights and drawing attention. While many hardcore fans dislike Paul's skills, Benavidez believes Paul's presence brings...
I'm here with David Benavidez. What are you looking forward to the most tonight at Bare Knuckle?
Honestly, it's my first time being at a bare knuckle fight, and it's already starting amazing. And I'm just here to come to see the gore, the blood, and all that. So it's been living up to the hype.
I want to ask you about Jake Paul wanting to fight Anthony Joshua. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good fight. If they can make it happen, then let's do it. You know what I mean? Jake Paul is a big household name. Anthony Joshua, needless to say, he's one of the greatest champions of boxing. So if they can get it done, that'll be a huge fight for boxing. And I said, let's do it.
You were in the talks to fight the ball. What are your thoughts on that? Is it in the works? So when is it happening?
So right now we're trying to negotiate the fight. It might be in the works for September, but we don't know. You know, everything in boxing is not 100%. So we're just going to keep trying to negotiate the fight. And if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. But
veteran heavyweight Derek Chisora has strongly criticized the idea of Jake Paul getting a WBC ranking, calling it disrespectful to the sport. Chisora says real fighters work for years to earn rankings, while Paul, who fights older or unranked opponents, would move ahead just because of fame. He accused WBC President Mauricio Suleiman of choosing money over credibility. Calling it a disgrace to boxing, Chisora says rankings should be earned through real fights.
They've said they're going to give a cruiserweight ranking to the winner of this fight. Do you think they deserve one?
I don't think so. I don't know why. It's hard enough for real athletes, for real boxers, to gain those rankings, and then suddenly this Solomon Tuesday decides to give double ranking because he's getting some greens in his back pocket. No,
Lawrence Okolie has raised major concerns about Jake Paul fighting Anthony Joshua, warning that it could be very unsafe. Okolie once sparred with Paul and praised his mindset, but he now says facing Joshua, who is elite power and skill, would be a dangerous mismatch. Many boxing pros agree. Eddie Hearn called the fight dangerous, very dangerous. Frank Warren said it's a huge risk because of Joshua's size. And Amir Khan warned Paul he could get seriously hurt sharing a ring with Joshua.
On this nonsense?
Where am I? I can't see it happening. I can't. Although, yes, lots of money, so on and so forth. I can't see it. I just can't. It just, obviously, as someone who's been a unified heavyweight world champion going in against Jake Paul, it doesn't
Doesn't sit
It
right,
doesn't.
right?
Yeah, and it's
Doesn't
like
sit right.
I'm also talking from a health and safety factor. It's like he's maybe a cruiserweight.
Yeah.
Anthony Joshua's a very big, strong heavyweight, and if he turns it on, it's not just a risk of a knockout. It's a much bigger risk. So I can't see it personally.
Former world champion Carl Froch does not take Jake Paul seriously as a boxer. Froch says Paul doesn't actually know how to box and just hops around the ring. After watching Paul's fight with Tommy Fury, Froch called it a mismatch and said Paul is far from being a real contender.
Jake Paul, that's serious. He can't really box. He can have a little fight, he can have a swing. He swings away, stands up straight, and he throws punches, but it's not professional boxing. Because when I watch him box, he does so much wrong. It's just everything's wrong. It's so bad. He's got leaky defence. He telegraphs his punches. Like, you put him in with someone his own size, it was a professional, and it's a mismatch. And you'll see that if he ends up fighting somebody. Tommy Fury, bless him, he's a pro boxer, but he's inexperienced. He's got no amateur pedigree. He's a raw novice, or maybe just above the raw novice. I was saying earlier, where would I put him in terms of levels? He'd do well to win a British title. He's at that sort of level. And then from British title to world level, it's like different worlds. It's like totally different.
MMA fighter Darren Till has also reacted, calling Jake Paul's challenge to Anthony Joshua disrespectful. He says Paul, even with his strong marketing skills, has not earned the right to call out one of boxing's biggest names. Many in the sport feel Paul is going far beyond his level. Paul also claimed Joshua has no chin and has no skill, which angered fans given Joshua's championship wins and fights against legends like Klitschko and Usyk. Many believe Paul is just trying to get attention by insulting an established champion.
Is it all just, does he actually believe that he can beat Anthony Joshua? Is it all for clout? Is it all just to keep his... I don't know. I mean, fucking... It's a little bit disrespectful as well. Like, Anthony Joshua hasn't fucking been a heavyweight world champion, beating all these absolute killers just to get called out by Jake Paul. But look, if Jake Paul believes in himself, then, you know, you can't really fault that. Like, obviously, but sometimes it comes across as a bit delusion as well. Because I know for a fact that I'd fight Jake, I'd beat him up easy. Not easy.
Some believe the Joshua vs. Paul fight hurts boxing's credibility. They see it as part of a trend of celebrity or crossover fights that turn the sport into entertainment instead of true competition. They argue that sanctioning these big money mismatches with social media stars weakens the sport's meaning and purity. Instead of testing elite boxers, these events focus on spectacle over skill, and many fear they could damage boxing's reputation in the long run.
Hopefully it gets flattened.
Simon, I know the money's there, but does ultimately boxing get damaged?
Well, I think so. But I think boxing damages itself left, right and centre. But I think the reputability and the credibility of some of these boxing sanctioning bodies is poor anyway. But I think it does get damaged.
Even if it's an exhibition fight, which it might well be.
Well, then what's the jeopardy in that? If it's an exhibition fight, which it shouldn't be, if it's a proper fight, then Jake Paul is going